in on that, right? He's the kind of guy that keeps on pushing the envelope. And, well, let's figure out what we got ourselves here, as we have in the top left-hand side. From R8, the blue Terran player is going to be Kelazhur.
Sending out the boys incredibly early. In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the American Protoss. Historically, one of the most accomplished American Protosses out there. This is Astrea. Is this the cure? Is this the ruddy killer, as our good friend Benjamin Baker likes to call it?
Is that what we call it?
I mean,
killer.
Ben just kept on calling it the ruddy killer because he had a day where he kept on proxy maraudering me a few times in a row. Astrea, by the way, with the sickest scout. Unbelievable. I wonder what Kelazhur is going to do here. This is really awkward. I mean, you can fight this probe, but if your plan was to build 2 barracks, you can't really do that anymore now, right? Because then there is a chance Astrea is going to send out more probes. You look at the minimap body, those probes are already coming. So now Kelazhur basically has to change his build altogether, and then it might actually be okay. Instead of going 2 Rex Marauder, you just say, all right, F it, this is going to be a 1 proxy barracks Reaper. As long as this barracks comes online, first SCV will fall. This is where you pray to the Terran RNG god. Second SCV is going to fall. What a start for Astrea. Oh, the scenes. NA scenes.
NA scenes indeed, as now Kelazhur starts up a barracks at home, but this is a horrible start. Extremely delayed. We're actually going to send another SCV on the map. He might still believe he can finish that racks up, which is kind of a wild thing to do just in general. But, I mean, you're kind of off the deep end at this point. There's no guarantee of what you should be doing or what's going to work and what's not, so yeah, why not?
I actually have no idea. I think you have to just cancel that and just let your own barrack. Because even if you finish it, what are you going to do with it? Like, there's just... I feel like nothing you can really do with it. That makes a lot of sense. Kelazhur has money to build a command center at home, and I'm sure that is what he will be looking at as he takes a little look at the setup of Astrea. Went for a low-ground pylon, by the way. We didn't even talk about that yet. Low-ground pylon, low-ground gateway. Do you like it in PvT?
I think it'd be fun if you want to kind of get some pressure across the map, and obviously it's great if you need to, like, wall off against some of the early pressure, but man, you can get in some trouble with it as well. You've got to be so good at making sure the Terran just doesn't get to come siege up across here, as it actually blocks the add-on positioning with the pylon as well, so Astrea just being as annoying as possible in the early stages. What your experience? Do you ever kind of go forward wall off in PvT early?
Only when I play against random, because I'm worried that it's Zerg.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's not something that really excites me, as we get a shield battery as well. Astrea just continues to do Astrea things. Is this necessary? Is this mandatory? I don't really think so, but the Adept is here. Another SCV gets picked off. This SCV should be able to finally finish up this factory as the first Cyclone is on the way, and the shield battery will get cancelled. I mean, it's just a nightmare start for Diego. This is not something you ever practice. Nobody ever goes into a game with the idea of, I'm going to go for 2 Rex Marauder, and, you know, not even a minute later, you have a pylon in your main, and there's an Adept shooting at the SCV that's building your factory. It's like, yeah, you probably wonder how I found myself in this situation, and that's because Astrea found his proxy immediately.
Good stuff for him as he moves in. Probe is going to be in some trouble there. Will go down. Whoa, misclick on the probes. They hit the assimilator, so that's a little bit of friendly fire. As they do have the pylon finally cleaned up. The Adept coming in to save the day against this Reaper. Reaper will make the getaway. Obviously, Adept has already used its shade. Don't get greedy for the probe. We're going to get greedy for the probe.
He wants one more, though. There's one more that's very low. Perfect grenade. Oh, if he gets out, come on, that would be illegal. Stay on the high ground. Stay on the high ground. Oh!
So close.
Sick. I mean, actually, that went really good for Kelazhur. And if this was a normal game, we'd be like, oh my god, this is so bad for the Protoss. But Astrea was far enough ahead that he can afford to lose a couple probes, lose a bit of mining time, and still be in love with his position. I mean, you just compare the work accounts, Wadi, to the PvT we've just seen. We're not even 5 minutes in, and Astrea's enjoying a 10-worker lead.
Yeah, big stuff. As the Cyclones are going to come across and try and apply some pressure, but Blink's halfway done. Third base coming up. Hallucination sees the Cyclones coming too, so they can actually just relocate and still get across the map, while also now knowing the Cyclones out and about. So that's some good information to have as the medevac will load up both Cyclones, and forward we go into the bottom right.
How many stalkers does Astrea have? Actually, he only had one, but he has just warped in 2 more, and he does still have those adepts from the early games. So I don't think that Diego can really accomplish a whole lot here. Actually misclicked and accidentally dropped one of the cyclones on the low ground. Needs to be careful, man. Blink is pretty far along. He's going to get a few probes here, but the medevac could be in danger. Blink is very close to finishing up. If he unloads the cyclones in the natural, he's going to lose them.
Yeah, he needs to be super careful right now. Stalkers warping in on the left side as well. There's the unload, there's the blink. The medevac is going to go down immediately. The cyclone's just going to target whichever probes they can, but, well, we get 9 workers. Yeah. So, honestly, could have been made worse. Now the worker count's evened out. As long as Kelazhur has an army to defend stalkers at home, he's okay.
Yep. We really are full NA. What a start to this lower bracket best of 5 between 2 of the best players of this region. 2 players that a lot of people looked at potentially winning it all. I mean, I know Kelazhur has never won one of these regional events. It's kind of sad. Every single season, we always hyped him up to be the guy to beat Special when it was still just Latin America. Never really did it. When Special finally did not win, it wasn't Kelazhur. Somehow it was Chem who took the crown back then. Since we started with the Americas, obviously a bit more difficult because now it's not just Special that Astrea, that Kelazhur needs to worry about. He needs to worry about the likes of Trigger, Scarlet, and yeah, still Special as well. Makes it harder, but he's still a top contender. Off to a rough start here, but playable. You know, Astrea has not really tacked up. This is not one of these scenarios where we look at an invincible Protoss army and there is just nothing that the Terran can really do. It does feel that we're going to have a crazy amount of gateway units and probably 1-1 upgrades kicking in, but there is hope for Kelazhur after what felt like one of the absolute worst starts imaginable.
I mean, from the worst start, he was the one to find all the damage, right, and to really open the game up and, you know, get the possibilities flowing again. So, yeah, you know what? I would take it from Kelazhur. From the way it started, I'd be okay if I was here right now. I mean, at least it feels like there's something of a chance, if nothing else.
Raven is going to fly into the main, drop another turret. Should always get 1 worker, maybe a second. He's absolutely going to get a second, maybe even a third. And nope, this one, assist. Actually, that first Raven, or first auto turret, gave an assist to the second.
Yeah.
It's actually insane, man, how many workers Kelazhur has already killed now. 17 probes in a game that started off with him trying to go proxy 2 Rex, never even getting any of the Rexes online, and he still kills 17 probes.
Strategy in the micro here with the Stalkers. We do scan the obs as well. Kelazhur just going to try and move out, clear out this 3rd base location, but this is realistically a push. Stim, Combat Shield, +1, all the upgrades finishing for the Terran Force, and the Medivacs are coming across as well. So Kelazhur wants to get down the map and into position and try and catch Astrea being a little bit too greedy. He is going to have upgrades done, charges available on those Zealots, and warp-ins are happening. That's going to be the important part as well. Oh, that Siege Tank's going to be in trouble. The SCVs are coming too, Roddy, so we are going to fully send this. Really nice catch from Astrea to already get rid of the Siege Tank in the back there. Now the Zealot's going to come in, but this is where the SCVs can tank at least, but another tank going down. Astrea just never letting Kelazhur get into position.
This is so chaotic. There are still a couple Widow Mines and a lot of SCVs. I mean, Kelazhur obviously needs to get the job done almost immediately. There are maybe some force fields to worry about, but these fights were chaotic. There is absolutely still a world where Kelazhur's army is good enough, but it needs to take a great fight against the Zealots. This is where the SCVs really need to form that line, but they are not tanking. They're battling probes. That's not what these Zealots are these SCVs are supposed to do. And that should actually allow all these gateway units to just get on top of the Marines Marauders, the tank towards the tail end of this fight. And that will do it. Astrea is going to take the 1-0 lead. It was far from pretty, but he was having fun, Wardy. And I always feel that Astrea is the guy that's not just very good at StarCraft, he also wants to have fun. And I'm sure that he enjoyed this game, even if it was a bit of a clown fiesta.
It was definitely a bit of a clown fiesta. I mean, he lost. I mean, again, you mentioned how many workers he lost. Kind of ridiculous from the start. As he lost about as many workers as if Kelazhur's build had been successful. Kelazhur did a great job trying to bring it back as we just set up to maybe attack in the natural. That's a little bit of a scary proposition. It'll be a lot less scary very soon with 2-2 upgrades on your side against the 1-0. So I think if Astrea just waits for the Prism, he'll naturally have the upgrades. And maybe then you kind of just send it. Because obviously you are working on 4 gateways back at home still. So you just, not 4 gateways, sorry, 4 bases back at home. So you've got economy for days. You can probably afford to take a bit of a bad fight into the natural.
Kelazhur never saw the 4th base. I think if he did that, he would have already left. But now he probably felt like, okay, it was my 2 base all in against your 3 base setup. But you lost almost all your probes in the 3 base setup. So maybe there is still a world where my bio army can scale well enough that I'll take a great fight against nothing but gateway units. If Kelazhur would know what we knew, he'd be tapping out, he'd be leaving. But he's going to give it a shot. We have a double drop in the center of the map. Stalkers are nearby, not close enough to kill it. I think the moment that Kelazhur is going to see not just a 4-base setup, but a 5-base setup, his heart will sink, and I think he knows that he's just way too far behind.
This is not happening, is it? I mean, drop into the main. We try and do something here as Kelazhur. Astrea, she's not let this main base drop do too much. Just maybe moving straight on forwards. A couple of probes already beginning to go down. A couple of stalkers getting shot away at. And again, a couple of these zealots will also start to drop off. As you do see the Bioforce. Eventually will get cleaned up. The zealots are going to take it a slow way. Now zealots in the main base of Kelazhur, though. Realistically, this is Kelazhur just hanging about, not really turning the course of this game around.
We have a bunch of Widow Mines hoping for sick connections. Widow Mines obviously don't really care about your upgrades, but these Zealots on the other side of the map, they will just not die. The Widow Mines can take care of a couple of them, but the SCVs are all going to get sliced up. Astrea's got 1,500 minerals in the bank, so he could warp in 15 more Zealots. I almost think that he wants this game to go on a little bit longer so he can have +3 armor. There is nothing more fun than having +3 armor Zealots with a Guardian Shield against a Terran that only has +1, but this is an unfair fight. Astrea with a picture-perfect scout to kick off this lower bracket series. Denies the first barracks from going up, and after that, did Astrea things to take the 1-0 lead.
Astrea things include making the game much more difficult than needed, as you mentioned at the start. Definitely was a little bit of a... It got dicier than, like you say, maybe ever had to be, but he got there in the end, and Astrea does have the 1-0 lead here over Kelazhur. As again with a win, Astrea would be setting up a rematch against Future to round out the night in a little bit. We've got Scarlet versus Trigger coming up as well from the upper bracket. Kind of hoping though that we get Astrea Kelazhur with some even footing in the early game, because this should be a great matchup. Obviously it's not quite so great when one guy, entire build comes crashing down in the first 5 seconds of it.
Yeah, I felt like we had a backup plan, right? Just complete at least one barracks, go Reaper, and if that barracks would have finished up, and then you can still build a quick Reaper while there are 4 probes out attacking a single barracks, then it's not great for Kelazhur because he still made an initial investment of grabbing 2 SCVs, sending them to the other side of the map. Build is ruined a little, but it wouldn't be that bad. Yeah, with the first barracks not even coming online, it was almost impossible to play. If that's the latter game, I think a lot of Terrans will just tap out, wave the white flag, get ready for the next one. You don't do that in the playoffs of the ESL Masters. I think Kelazhur already knew that it was going to be difficult. Sure, he got a tiny bit of hope, and I actually like the call of going for the SCV pool. If Astrea's not tacking up, pure Marine, Marauder, couple mines, couple tanks, and then a lot of SCVs to maybe create that buffer for your bio units, it can actually win you some impossible games, even if Protoss has better upgrades, even if they have a better economy. Well, Astrea did a good job in making it an incredibly chaotic fight that basically scratched across like 3 screens, and yeah, that's not really where an SCV pool shines.
Oh, it's really not. As in the bottom left-hand side going into round 2 with the 1-0 lead, the red Protoss player is Astrea.
Top right side of Post Youth, we are looking at the main base of our Brazilian Terran who grew up in America, went back to Brazil, and eventually found his happy place in Europe, living in the Netherlands for the last few years, now also working for Liquipedia. This is Kelazhur, representing Team R8.
Early probe. Just gotta make sure nothing crazy going on this time. Straight across the map works. Confirm the barracks is here, and you can start to harass it as well. So a little bit of an annoyance as an SCV pulls off the line. We'll go after the probe straight away.
If it is Astrea, you're always worried that he does something very weird. Yesterday, I was so ready. I was like, all right, Astrea, PvP, lower bracket. Nina is a damn good PvP player. Astrea, I think, got a little too creative for his own good in the upper bracket. I was like, I do think we're going to see a very serious Astrea today. And we're not even like 15 minutes in, and he goes for the proxy robo in the natural of his opponent. And I'm like, oh my god. Astrea just can't help himself, can he? It's a double gate opening, by the way. This is not that standard in this matchup.
No, this really is not going to be units.
Oh, he's going to mine out. He's going to mine out the minerals.
Yeah.
Why can he never have a normal game body? I mean, I love it, but at the same time, I kind of hate it. Where I'm like, he's so good if he just plays normal, and he just does not want to play normal.
It's just like absolute utter refusal to do anything that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, but he's got to go about it the wackiest way. It's the sort of thing where if like Kelazhur just spots it, he shuts it down. It's like, okay, this is so easily held, but obviously you've got no clue. The Reaper comes to get this probe and doesn't quite get it. 1 HP getaway there, so that probe is good. Apparently he's going to go instantly back on the map.
Yeah, because the depots were erased and he clicked the Reaper to the low ground. I don't think he saw it before, unless he maybe just knew immediately that this is something they had to worry about. But now he knows that those minerals have been mined out. Probably not too worried about one adept at a time, but it's not one adept at a time. It's a double gate opening. Astrea still on one base. The Reaper is about to hop into the main and be like, oh my god, Diego dropped another command center. Another command center against a one base Protoss with multiple gateways.
What if he just didn't realize how his Reaper left the base? It's like,
that'd be crazy, no?
I mean, I think so too, but I mean, we're sat here with an extra CC coming up against a one base 4 gate. He just has no idea, man.
Look at where he's building that bunker too. Like, that doesn't make any sense. No. If you know that the minerals have been mined out, why would you be building your bunker there? Because that's not where Astrea is going to fight. Oh my goodness, Diego. Did he just not realize it? I really thought he noticed, because he just clicked and he saw that the Reaper didn't hop down anywhere where it would normally hop down. It went past the minerals. I mean, Kelazhur is omega dead here.
God.
He's so dead.
I was about to say, the Reaper just went down, the Marines are going down, and this is going to be disaster for Kelazhur. As this Adept gets away, we kill off that last Marine, and there's only one barracks. You cannot keep up with production here. There's just no way. It's about to be 4 gateways. Warpins are ready in a moment. The Adept falls, but we are 2-shot Marines with these 2 Stalkers. That's all the production, pretty much just there. Now we build a pile on high ground, because this is only going to get worse.
This is permanent high ground vision now, but I think it already would have been even without that pile, and it is a 1 base 4 gate. People often say, I really miss Wings of Liberty. Well, Astrea is giving you guys a blast from the past, a good old-fashioned 1 base Protoss 4 gate, not 4 gate Blinkstalker, not DTs or anything, no. Just a 4 gate as he mines out the minerals on Post Youth. Gets in there, and Kelazhur, I thought he was paying attention. He clicked his Reaper, he went through the gap. And I was like, hey, you know, that's supposed to be a mineral wall. I'm sure that Diego is going to immediately either build a depot there or keep it in the back of his mind. And then he dropped another command center.
This has not been his series, mate. This is absolutely disaster town. Yeah, first you get aggressive and you get scouted, then you actually scout that your opponent's probably up to something, and you don't realize you noticed it. Oh, rough time for Kelazhur as he's now down 0-2, and he's going to have to dig. I want to say dig deep, but honestly, he just kind of needs to get into a normal game, maybe, to even see if we can just get a map win and then work from there. Put these first 2 behind you. It's very unlikely something similar happens again, so just get into Oceanborn, try and get a win, and like I say, play it out from that one point forwards as we get ready for this Oceanborn game. As Astrea could just be moving into the top 4 just like that.
No mineral walls on Oceanborn, so we've got that going for ourselves, and pretty large map, so we don't really need to go for a proxy. But I do think you hit the nail on the head there. It's just so annoying if you have 24 hours to get ready for the next series. Obviously, Kelazhur is not happy to see Astrea staring at him from the other side of the lower brackets. Like, come on, you. A bit like what Raynor had earlier today. It's like, oh, really? I have to play Clem here? Like, come on. Anybody else other than that guy? But then you still craft up some plans. You think about what you want to veto, what they veto. You play out the games in your mind. You play a bunch of practice games. And I can guarantee you that not a single game that Kelazhur practiced has gone like game 1 and game 2 played out. And that is just an absolutely horrific feeling.
Well, let's get into game number 3 as it's time to try and turn it all around for our blue Terran player. In the bottom right-hand corner from R8, looking to keep himself alive in the playoffs, it's Kelazhur.
And in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the man who just can't be normal. We love him for it, but sometimes as a fan, it can also be a little painful because he makes life so hard on himself. But hey, if it all works out, isn't it just fun and awesome? This is the currently teamless, but I'm sure not for long, American Protoss player, Astrea. What a best of 5, Waddy.
What a best of 5. It's been banging so far, Roddy. This is exactly the TVP I tuned in for.
I would have loved to see some nice late game between these two as well, or just some War Prisms, some Medevac harass.
Yeah.
Anything that does not include Kelazhur being dead 3 minutes into the game.
100%. I'm with you. I said it right. I was like, well, maybe now we just get a more normal game. Kelazhur gets a macro. He gets to kind of play about. He's great at dropping. He's great at keeping the game extremely active. Compared to some Terran players. Well, he's just not had the chance at all so far. So
Most normal opening so far here, though, as Astrea goes for a 1-gate fast expand to Kelazhur. Is gonna go double gas, but we don't have any SCVs out and about. Just a regular Reaper into factory. And then I still expect a relatively quick command center to go down. Kelazhur is a damn good player. I do believe that he's currently in America. That's what Thermal shared with me the other day. Rainer said he's in the Netherlands, but I think Rainer was wrongly informed. So there is no ping advantage or anything for Astrea. They are just playing on the most fair server. Let's hope that Kelazhur can just find something. It's always sad to see players that we like, and Kelazhur and Astrea have been around for so long, that we don't want to see anybody get 3-0'd. I feel like there is nothing worse than getting 3-0'd with nothing going your way, where just from start to finish, there was not one happy moment. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy, so I hope, even if Astrea wins this game, that Kelazhur has something cool. A big Widow Mind connection, a great fight, some nice late game, anything, Waddy.
Reaper just gets a probe. Yeah, I'm with you. I just want to see. I want to see the 10-minute marker with both players like realistically being alive in the game. Is that so much to ask for? Kelazhur.
It really isn't.
Surely.
I don't think you're being greedy here, Waddy. I think that's reasonable.
Reasonable ask. We don't have to go super ahead of schedule. We're already kind of going fast today.
This is one of the openings, by the way, that Astrea tried to do against Future, and it did not work out at all, because Future didn't just go for a proxy barracks, but he actually went for a proxy barracks, proxy starport. The factory was at home. Starport was on the other side of the map. And yeah, seeing 1-gate fast expand Sentry first is like, yeah, okay. I know that Heaven, the American Protoss, really loves Sentry first. I just think it's very vulnerable to a lot of things. You don't have a mobile army. You don't have a lot of firepower. What you will have is a scout, but I often feel like you can just scout what you're in trouble against.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you see, the Reaper Hellion is going to run by. We are going to get straight in. Image on the sentries, so we are in the mineral line, and this is where we get to do some killing. Kelazhur is in to get some damage done. 5 workers dropping. The probes will pull around from a couple different directions, and well, this is a very successful opening. 8 workers going to make it 9 to finish up. Kelazhur is rocking and rolling.
And he gets his first proper W of the entire best of 5, and that's exactly what I mentioned. It's like, all right, you go Sentry first, you scout, you're like, oh, it's Reaper Hellion, then it's there, then you take damage. No, with the setup that Astrea had, there maybe was a way to handle that a little bit better. Could have put units on hold position. If you only have a shield battery in the main, it should be in the natural, not in the main, then I guess the #1 priority has to be not allowing the Hellions to get into the main. If the Reapers somehow get up there, it is what it is, but you can't let the Hellions get up there. So Astrea could have handled that a little bit better, because I think he kind of knew what he was up against.
Yeah, doesn't need to let it kind of go so crazy as now. You take a lot of damage early, your work count is not great, and as you move into Blink and all the rest of it, you're just going to be a little bit depowered. Liberator Marine Tank as the setup from Kelazhur. He's got the potential for that Liberator swing in if he wants to kind of poke forward the threat with the Marine Tank. Doesn't even need to really set up fully with the Marine Tank, just the idea of being like, hey, look, I'm on the map a little bit, and then the Liberator can dive in as the distraction. We're actually going to see a second Liberator, so a lot of investment into the harass here, with the extra racks finishing up right now as well.
Surprised that Kelazhur feels... What? Okay, he's going to get a second bunker. Diego's reading this as I'm getting 4-gate Blink Stalker all in. And... But that's not exactly what it is, Waddy. We have a Templar Archives on the production tab.
Yeah, he's not quite... And you know what it is? I think he's going to wait for this Liberator to move in to probably be like, okay, I'm waiting for the Stalkers to show up, then I'm going to move in. But Stalkers ain't going to show up for a while because they ain't leaving. So he's built a Liberator or two that just aren't doing much right now. And now he starts up Stim, obviously extra production. Now coming online, the extra barracks ready so you can get the upgrade started. Stalker's going to find a Marine here. Just going to clean that out. Maybe that's time for Liberators to kind of get active because we're going to have both of them in position in a moment. So going to be a problem for Astrea to deal with those.
Yep, the few Stalkers are going to make it to the other side of the map, but Astrea is obviously not looking to kill Kelazhur because he can't, and he's been investing in a lot of other things, waiting for Storm. The nice thing for Kelazhur is that even though he is misreading this, it's not that bad, because Astrea has still 2 base Protoss. And staying on 2 bases defensively as a Terran is not a bad thing. If your opponent's on 2 bases, now this Marine Scout is going to be so confusing if you're Kelazhur. Where you're like, mate, what the hell? Like, 2 bases, but there are still no Stalkers jumping on top of my tanks, killing SCVs. As he is going to set up the Liberators in the end, but both of them die. Not my favorite moment ever to send the Livs in, because I just don't feel anything else is happening.
It's almost like he was so ready for something to happen that when it didn't, he was like, well, what do? I guess I gotta send the Libs in because this was the whole plan. And then they got a Stalker and a couple of probes, but far from what you want 2 Liberators to get. Storm now done from Astrea. Late 3rd base, so in that regard, Kelazhur is absolutely fine. But yeah, he's got to make sure he doesn't kind of die to these storms, because they could be a little bit of a surprise catcher. Could be something that could be pretty scary if you let them get the right storms off. I mean, Astrea moving on the map does not feel like he's got an army to be doing that with. He is kind of prisoned though, so he will be able to reinforce it as he makes his move.
Well, he's got 4 High Templars, and imagine if those bunkers aren't there and you fly your War Prism forward, you drop a couple of big storms, that would be awesome. Kelazhur has way more battle units. He's got 2 full medevacs off by on the top side of the map, and he's actually still fine, as Astrea is now going from 2 all the way up to 4 bases. As we have sent a couple of High Templars to the other side of the map, he spots the double drop with his pilot, and this is going to be such a mega confusing game for Kelazhur. I bet he's got absolutely no idea where he's at, where he's like, am I winning? Am I losing? I mean, like, 2 base Protoss, I must be winning, right? But then you start worrying about stuff like a hidden base too, because it just doesn't make any sense. Astrea was 2 bases, but yet he did not attack Kelazhur, and that's going to be incredibly confusing for the Terran.
Absolutely. Stalkers pushing their way forwards here, and they are going to go chasing those medevacs away. Some medevacs get punched out of there. A couple more orders still coming up, and oh yes, in the main base, big storm drop. 14 STVs going down. That's one way for Astrea to reset the work count in his favor. However, he's got to survive against this army. Storm on those Widow Mines could be great. He hits the tanks instead, hits again. Widow Mines have all fired now. Still one siege tank left though, and the High Templars are struggling for energy. One more storm is kind of a warning storm. Astrea loses the 4th base, and Kelazhur can stay around near the 3rd.
There's 1 more storm remaining, maybe 2 storms, 1 on the low ground, 1 perhaps inside of that War Prism. Can't really check the energy on that one. Astrea needs 1 insanely good storm. That's a painful stim. The storm is pretty good. Here comes the War Prism. That storm is not bad either. Widow Mine friendly fight tiny bit. Look at that Archon, by the way, holding down the line for the Protoss forces, trying to let the Stalkers do their thing. This is where Astrea could really use a couple Zealots. We do have charge. The Zealots are going to show up a little bit too late, but Astrea is enjoying a 13 marker lead. And he, of course, still has Templar Archives. He still has Storm Tech available, even if he doesn't have any storms at the moment. Kelazhur, I think, needs a little bit more than he's been able to get so far. Not that big of an army, eh, Waddy?
Astrea, I feel like it's just sitting on, money. 700, 500 is a huge deal at this point in the game. We blink in. That's going to be dead Stalkers to the Widow Mines. We try and micro with the Prism, but it's a little bit off from as good as it could have been, honestly, right? It could have been a bit better. I want to just, praise it, but it was kind of not quite it. As now we're going to see another Stalker. Oh, not dead. This time the Prism micro is on points. This time we're going to see Astrea kind of making up for lost ground. And he does get the cleanup, now pushing this back, and now with a bit of freedom, that worker lead, not quite as high as it was, but he's just got money to spend. If he could spend all of their minerals on Zealots, he'd be in a great spot. He's going to expand too.
Yep, he already tried that earlier. Back then it got denied. I would love to see a few more High Templars though, because that Ghost Academy, it's on the production tab, but it's still going to take a little while before Kelazhur truly has a bunch of ghosts to work with. And I feel like it's such a shame that if you do find yourself in one of these rare spots where you've got quick access to Storm, why are we now giving up on Storm? Like, that was the great equalizer. Without Storm, we would have been in serious trouble. So, a little bit sad not to see Astrea wiping a single High Templar in the last 60, 80 seconds of this game. I don't really get it.
No, I honestly feel like it was such a shame as well. There's a couple High Templars you could have saved with the Prism initially as well. And if they just regened energy by now, then that would have been huge. I'm with you. I would have liked to have seen some, you've got 4 High Templar now in the Prism waiting to kind of go, so... But maybe could have just seen that a little bit sooner. As that Bio's going to jump in on this base. The unit's actually off to the right-hand side. The storms are coming from the left. The Prism is not able to get close enough just yet, so we're waiting, we're lurking. Stalker's blinking with the Widow Mines on cooldown. We can come into this more easily. The High Templar will be able to surely go now as we drop out, and there's a good catch. Gets a lot of the units.
Yep, that's going to push the Terran force all the way back, and I think at this point Kelazhur has to pick up the remaining units, go home, heal everything up. Maybe even that awkward moment of repairing some of your medevacs, because I don't love the idea as a Terran to start another fight a minute from now with all these medevacs this injured. And one more storm, a forward blink, winning long fights without any medevacs seems almost impossible. I know it's not something that Terran players really enjoy, but I really wouldn't hate a tiny repair on some of these medevacs.
I am absolutely with you. Just they could do with it. Absolutely. Just the sort of thing that's so easy to do. Now we do have Ghosts ready, so EMP is available. High Templars maybe going to come in from the flank, but now the Prism's in trouble. We do get the High Templars out of the Prism. We morph the Archons, so somehow that's a save. Prism down though, so less flanks to worry about. Now you know where the High Templars are likely going to be storming from, and that's a big help.
It does feel that Astrea is slowly but steady starting to hit his stride here. He's on 77 probes. He's working with double forts. He's cranking out some Immortals. I wouldn't hate a Robo Bay and a second Robo, but it kind of feels that Astrea is doing what he loves to do the most, and that is playing a very scrappy, messy game of StarCraft 2 that is very difficult to read for his opponent. Facing out High Templars. Nice EMP there by Diego as he lands another one that connects with two High Templars at the same time. So Astrea has to be a tiny bit cautious. No storms available yet. Is forced to morph those High Templars into Archons as well. It's actually turning into a really good start of the fight, at least for Kelazhur. But how long can he stick around?
Yeah, this was a great start. You're not wrong. These couple of Mauls are going to be packing a punch. 3 of them now available. The High Templars just all getting EMP'd. No storms ready to go. And Kelazhur doubling army supply, but just running out of steam to keep it going right then and there. Gives Astrea some time to maybe get the rebuild started. He's got money in the bank once more, a lot of Zealots. There's kind of this stage where Kelazhur's obviously been so aggressive for so long. If Astrea could just sneak some Zealots to the other side of the map, God, it would be so good for him. The ability just to kind of get in the other side, force Kelazhur to kind of turn around back home for a bit, give Astrea some more time and potentially get damage done as well. I feel like that's what Astrea needs. Right now, Kelazhur is going to catch Astrea with, no idea of where this army was at. Runs up this ramp. He's a little bit afraid of the storms once again, so he's playing very cautiously, and Astrea is not going to be forced into a fight just yet.
What a pylon, by the way, in the natural of Astrea. A Robo, a Gate, and double forge, all by one pylon. But he doesn't care. Astrea is just living his best life, looking for some storms. Does land a fat one in the middle of the Terran army. Needs to respect the Widowmines. That is another good storm. So these two storms already way better than any storms we saw connect in that previous fight. I'm just kind of worried for Kelazhur that the upgrades, the ability for Astrea to warp in those High Templars and flank from different angles is going to be a little bit too much if we stick around there. He is going up to 4 bases. He's got Ghost. And it's kind of saying, like, maybe get a couple Liberators or something, right? Slow the game down a tiny bit. Doesn't have any Widowmines anymore. Actually has 3 of them apparently remaining. So can we really be here, Kelazhur? Kelazhur thinks the answer is yes. Nice EMP on those bottom High Templars. That's going to help.
Yeah, getting rid of potential storms is huge. The Immortals having to pull their weight right now as we do not have a storm available on this High Templar. There it is, comes through finally. It does hit nicely, and it's just low HP units that are going to get cleaned up. We blink forwards, and there's the Medevacs. Not quite fully, like you mentioned, but the idea of, hey, they're low, a storm and a blink, and we're going to start to see some dropping, so it makes the getaways very scary.
Actually, really good EMPs by Kelazhur, because that fight, in the end, didn't go poorly for him, but I feel like it had potential to go really bad. But he handled the first 20-30 seconds almost perfectly. In the end, Astrea is just so rich. He's got a lot of gateways, 9 gateways in total. Those are immediate reinforcements in the middle of the fight. So Kelazhur is not just battling the army that he's looking at. He's battling another additional 20 supply, maybe even more when 4 supply shows up out of that Robo. It's hard to imagine that you can stay around forever there with an army that's already a bit low on HP, Medevacs that are wounded, but he did about as well as he ever could. I'd love to see a second starport war. I really feel that at this point, Kelazhur is easily rich enough as he does lose that Medevac with all the Widowmines inside of it. Why not a second starport?
Yeah, I'm with you. Just any sort of additional tech ready to go. He has obviously been spending. I mean, he's got money right now as well. Now would be the time to do it, as actually see Widowmines and everything actually starting to go to the right. Obviously, Astrea does have somewhat limited vision around the center here. Doesn't quite see where this army is moving to. Stalker blink there, just going to dodge away from that mine. Obviously that gives Kelazhur the idea he might be able to get up to the top, and that's going to be what Astrea is going to start chasing down onto as well. When the mine shot goes off, we blink, and we actually get a couple of catches here as Astrea. Not a bad start to the fight, as he catches the units on the bottom side of that quite nicely.
Scans are important because you want to know what High Templars are, but there are 10 of them, buddy. There is 10 High Templars. There are 10 High Templars on the map. 20 supply in HTs. That's so difficult for Diego. No matter how good your EMPs are going to be, it feels that it's inevitable that a couple of these storms will connect. as Astrea is now working with +3 attack, +3 armor. This is difficult, man. I do really think that Kelazhur needs something else other than just these Marines, Marauders, and a few ghosts. There is our second starport. There is the fusion core. Seems that he agrees.
He's taking the 5th base as well, which is something that's going to match Astrea's. Astrea is actually going to make a dive down the map. If Kelazhur is messing around in the upper right, Astrea feels like he can do something, force a position here, jump on some SCVs. There's an army to this left-hand side as well. There's going to be the army now retreating in, but if you do land the storms onto that army coming in, it could have been great, but this is Astrea kind of trapping himself now. He didn't get the storms on the army coming from the top as I feel like he needed. He's just going to go for a ton of SCV damage, but man, he's going to have to start rebuilding an army right now because otherwise he's going to be in a ton of trouble because he's going to lose a lot. But he actually does recall some of the Zealots out, so maybe this isn't so bad. The Stalkers get to live as well. Okay, much bigger fan of this than I thought I was going to be.
No, I think it was bad. I think you're spot on, but he did a very good job immediately in splitting up the Zealots across 2-3 different mineral lines, making it really difficult for Kelazhur to figure out what he needs to pay attention to. We have a High Templar waiting in the side blocker, lends the 6 Storm, lends the feedback to. War Prism died by, and that is just ridiculous, man. The previous fight, it wasn't just the fight that we were looking at, but the War Prism died as well. So Astrea lost a crazy amount of resources there, but he's just so rich. He's just so crazy. And all right, Astrea, we'll give it to you. You're just so damn fun. It is High Templar galore. People ask us often, why don't we see more Storm? After this game, I don't know, man. We just gotta be more like Astrea again. Look at this Protoss around. This is so incredibly cool.
Oh,
Max
no!
Angel is storming himself into the next round of the lower bracket, as that is one of the best Protoss engagements you're going to see in the entire regionals.
I've never seen a 360 High Templars around. They came from all angles. Kelazhur, I feel like, didn't even know where to split to or what to do. He sat there, he ate it, and that is absolutely huge. Wow, my goodness, that is some madnesses. Astrea?
So cool.
Just cool, man, yeah. He's wearing sunglasses playing this game, I swear down.
If you look at the units lost have 26 High Templars have died. That is such an unreasonable number. Most of the time we see a couple and then Protoss players are like, yeah, we give up. Not Astrea. He doubles down, he triples down, and that really was, I think, the coolest fight we've seen in the entire regional so far. It is nothing but storms. Everywhere Kelazhur goes, there are storms. And this is obviously really where some of those Liberators would have came in handy. But they were just a little bit delayed. By the time he finally built that second starport and the fusion core, he was stuck. And yeah, this is what we're looking at right now. One EMP does land on the War Prism. That is the 3rd War Prism that has gone down after the Marines fighted it. But Kelazhur just feels that he is in serious trouble. The only thing he can really do is run and is try to kite to the best of his abilities. And he's putting up a really good fight against the Zealots. He's saying this ain't over yet. But every single time you get a bit of hope, you get stormed into the face.
Yeah, those storms just keep on packing a punch, right? Like, there's not been a single storm where you come out of it and you're like, oh, that was okay. And the last few have just been brutal. Even just when it doesn't connect in a big way, it feels like it's doing so much to zone Kelazhur back or to stop them fighting in. That's the problem as well. It's more than just the damage, it's the position they create on the map in those few moments. And behind this, Astrea has just been expanding as well since we kind of really last talked about his expands. He's expanded down bottom left, upper right is now coming online as well. So we have a ton of bases coming through. And Kelazhur is, well, he's hurting still, Roddy. He is hurting bad.
The ghost count at 5. Currently 5 ghosts against 7 High Templars. Since Astrea has never transitioned into the Robo and the Robo Bay, like, there is always hope for Kelazhur. It looked incredibly dire. It almost looked like he was just going to get a move. That's why when he moves out now, by the way, we are looking at 20 Zealots storming into the original 3rd base. It's very annoying as more SCVs will fall. That's actually one of the only bases. He's got mining refineries, so that is extra painful because that is something that Kelazhur desperately needs right now, guys. Kelazhur does still have a good army, and Astrea does not have an invincible army. So, tiny bit of hope for Kelazhur, but it just feels like he needs something a tiny bit better, a tiny bit more diverse than what he's currently working with.
If Astrea had the Robo transition, it's so dangerous too, because then as the Terran, you're constantly playing the guessing game of what they're rebuilding into, right? Like, what tech is it going to be? Do I need Vikings against Colossi? Missing that is something that gives Kelazhur a bit of hope, like you say, but he still has to win fights, and well, he is going to try and chase down these odds on the left-hand side. Storms show up onto the center of the bio again. How does he keep getting the storms to just land so perfectly in the middle of these units? It's absolutely disgusting.
That was a mental storm. It's so good. In the dead center of the Terran army. Kelazhur in the end does get a few of the units out there. Throws down a scan looking for EMPs. Lands the first one. Drains 2 of the High Templars of their energy. That's nice. Astrea is so freaking rich, man. He's got so many bases. Every single time he is nowhere near maxed out, you immediately see 12 plus Zealots. That is a slow Zealot warp, and that pylon is a bit too far away. So it takes a couple of extra seconds. Wouldn't hate more run-bys, right? If we're only working with gateway units, I think a few more run-bys is nice. It's also a couple of Immortals, and we know that it's just a matter of time before another storm will find its way into this Terran army, as that is an ambitious blink, but I guess Astrea can get away with it.
He's knocking down so many of the medevacs, there's basically no healing left, so every stim now is going to be costly, and storms even more so. You mentioned there'd be storms coming, Roddy. Finally, we see one. There's only 2 High Templar currently left on the map, so that's why it took a while. They just were not here. And Astrea still has money to spend and to rebuild with a little bit. They just need to do that. As I'm totally with you on the run-bys. I do think that's the way you create chaos in this situation. And, you know, when you're working with mass gateway units, you're going to benefit from just causing your opponent to have to split apart and kind of make their bioforce smaller to defend. That's something you can always capitalize on.
For sure. And it's also a lot easier to control Zealots that you don't have to look at than it is to control Marines and Marauders. Kelazhur is going to have to respect those Zealots in his natural on the third base. There's our Robo by the way. There's our second Robo. After 23 minutes, maybe Astrea is having some flashbacks of the game that he had on Oceanborn last season against Kelazhur. And he's like, wait, didn't that end badly for me? Wasn't I winning this game and then somehow I lost it? Let's make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. As maxed out Astrea is willing to transition after all. He's also about to get the very rare and incredibly beautiful Protoss 333 upgrades. Not every day you see those, Wadi.
Nope. It is not. As a couple of storms going down. Ooh, Zealots are kind of sitting in their own storms as... I was going to say, I'm not sure we're actually breaking through this planetary, but hey, 15 more SCVs going down. Kelazhur is broke. And Astrea just has money to spend. And as Kelazhur camps out in this orbital down over here, he's pre-split. He's not going to eat a big storm here. At least he's hoping he doesn't. Prism is actually going to get caught. I don't think Astrea is going to look at that, because there's a lot to look at on the map. So he gets a little bit punished there for setting up preemptively. And Kelazhur actually finds a High Templar kill in the top right.
We've now lost 5 War Prisms and 35 High Templars. I cannot remember for the life of me the last time that I casted a game where 35 High Templars went down.
Oh, well, Marines gonna come about it. You're right, 35 High Templars is kind of ridiculous. It's taking a moment to process just the ridiculousness of that unit's lost tab. It is kind of crazy. Kelazhur still somehow competitive despite eating so many storms in this game. There's one High Templar on the right side. If he doesn't find the EMP, he's going to eat a big storm, and that's exactly what happens. Astrea is going to eat a couple Widow Mines as well. He is back with the Zealots on the right-hand side, so he's really wanting to get rid of that base. He is desperate to remove it from the game, but he needs to actually get rid of some of the SCVs. That's why the storms would be good again, and he does drop them now. Is it enough to get rid of the planetary? Yes!
High Templar auto attack as the Archons and Immortals. Perfect hold position here, by the way, by Astrea. It's impossible for Kelazhur to attack into this superior concave. All the medevacs are running out of energy. There will be a couple of Widow Mine connections. War Prism number 6 or 7 is going to join in the fun. There's a few High Templars coming from the top, and Kelazhur actually temporarily takes not just the supply, but look at the army supplies, Wadi. What on earth? I felt Kelazhur lost a lot of units there. I'm sure he did, but he still has 112 army supply.
He does, and Astrea is in a big spot to bother right now, where he actually just doesn't have an army to fight with. He is missing out big time. A couple of static defense cannons here are going to have to help. He's going to clump up. He's going to recall out of this position to save what he can. And Astrea loses in the bottom left. I mean, fortunately, he has a lot of movement ability around the map, so he can actually go to other bases and buy time. It's taken Kelazhur a long time to clean the base out, so that gives Astrea a chance to rebuild up a little bit, if nothing else. Man, this is
Is there a world?
I think so, man.
136 army supply for Kelazhur. He does still need to worry about High Templars that are sharking around every single corner, lurking, waiting around inside blockers and whatnot, as Astrea does get his hands on this top right side base. Don't forget that Astrea has 3 robos. Astrea has a Robo Bay, and he says, nah, let's just go ahead and get the job done with gateway units for now. That is originally what I set out to be, and that's what I want to do. Triple cannon, double battery could be difficult to attack into, but this Terran army suddenly looks a lot more healthy. At least it did until that storm connected.
Yeah, that was a nice storm, but we're going to need more than just one nice storm here and there now. Now we actually need that cacophony of storms to come back and to hit big and true once again. All these probes running away, that's kind of the eco advantage of Astrea, just disappearing as it runs off. Over to that side, and Kelazhur just moving around the map with 150 army supply.
It's insane.
Astrea I mean, Astrea finally building a Colossus, by the way. This is something which I think if he'd done a while ago, Kelazhur could have never really recovered from like 3 or 4 Colossus being in the game. But obviously now, like, the army supply is so low for Astrea, taking a fight seems very, very difficult. He's got to basically rely on cannons to help supplement his forces.
Yeah, if he gives up this base, by the way, then he almost has no income anymore. I think Kelazhur could potentially attack into it, because this looks better for him than that fight did in the bottom left side, where we had a perfect concave of Protoss units, Archons, Immortals, cannons, batteries. The longer he waits, the more intimidating Astrea armies becomes. Obviously, Kelazhur at this point is maxed out. Throws down a scan, is wondering, can we land a couple of sick EPs? Snipes the High Templar. As the other High Templars come in from the bottom left, we land the feedback, land the zoning storm, and the first Colossus has arrived. But this Colossus, of course, does not have extended turbulence.
Yeah, I'm going to go, actually now building 3 Colossus at once, so we're going to go to 5, so Kelazhur just kind of need to free up some supply and get some Vikings, because 5 Colossus without Vikings is actually a pretty big issue. Astrea, 27.5 minutes in this game. We thought he had it all wrapped up. Kelazhur's army supply currently terrifying, but just difficult to justify an attack in. And that's the problem. If you can't attack in, you're giving Astrea the time to get those additional tech units out, and that could be the turning point back into Astrea's favor.
So difficult as a player as well to have a read on the economy of your opponent. Like in Kelazhur's mind, Astrea is probably omega rich, because he's only been building gateway units and he had all these bases. He didn't know that that base in the top right, that was basically Astrea's lifeline. If that one would have gone down, this is the only income he has, and there's only 4 mineral patches left there. But Kelazhur did not know that, could not possibly know that, decided not to pull the trigger. Now gave Astrea some time to remax, and 5 Colossus against 3 Vikings. That is going to be incredibly difficult. Now 1 Colossus might actually run into the Terran army. Who's flanking who? Who's surrounding who? I feel like we've seen this before, Waddy.
Yeah, well, the Prism told Astrea that this army was here, but that was the only warning. It was too late for him to turn around, so now he's going to try and hold up the ramp. Archons will get rid of the couple Vikings that exist. So you get rid of these Vikings, the Colossus can just hold the ramp, and Kelazhur's got to try and decide what he wants to do. As army supplies are going to get extremely close, and Astrea realizes, hey, I can go for this army, right? And Kelazhur running through the choke, takes a bunch of damage. He's going to get away, but you can see the problem, and that's why Vikings need to be made. And again, that's the power of, just imagine if Astrea built these Colossi sooner, right? Like, how could Kelazhur have really dealt with this at an earlier point? He couldn't have. These Colossi are absolutely slaying right now. SCV's caught in a transfer as well as Kelazhur tries to get to the upper right. We still have Storms apparently. Dropping a couple of those. We turn back around. This Bioforce is pretty hurt as we stim yet again. Every stim means these Colossi are going to be feasting. I don't know if either player really knows what sort of fight they want to take right now.
No, it's so awkward as well, because all those rocks are still up in the center, so it's so narrow. And it just felt really awkward. Am I flanking you? Are you flanking me? Is this good for me or you? Felt like neither player really know where they were on. Astrea's gonna try to send the probes all the way back to the bottom left side. Getting on top of this base, by the way, is big. In the end, that went very well for Astrea. Look at the amount of Archons we've got, by the way. And after that big skirmish we just had in the center in this 30-minute game, almost all the goals went down. Kelazhur was very quick to replace those, and he's now back up to 7. But for a second there, he only had a single ghost. And that's where 4 or 5 Archons in a 30-minute PvT actually become a really big problem.
Well, we get rid of that Prism. That didn't really do much. There's another Prism here with the army. So we have got High Templar inside, ready to find the Storm. Astrea's reaching out to that bottom left base. Kind of feels like a base he might need just to keep his economy going. Kelazhur only has 21 SCVs. He does now have a good Viking count. I mean, Astrea's army is just so tech heavy suddenly. Just so Archon heavy, Colossus heavy. Crazy.
All the Widow Mines, by the way, were left behind in the top right side. Do we have any observers? We got a single observer in the center. Don't have any observers here, but I guess we can clean up these Widow Mines anyway if we want to just let them fire. Astrea's got a lot of probes long distance mining on the bottom left side. Looks a little bit silly on the minimap as he's figuring out, where do I get a new base? How do I get a proper economy? Neither player maxed out at the moment. Finally, some of the rocks have been taken out. They have been incredibly kind to the rocks here on Oceanborn.
Yeah, they're just like, you know what, they're part of the map. Let's just accept them for what they are. 13 workers as Astrea needs to stop transferring these probes around. I mean, all the ones at the bottom left are going to be in trouble, so there goes Astrea's worker lead. I mean, he didn't really have anywhere to mine from with these, so I guess it's not the end of the world. But if he did get a new base up, that's obviously now less probes he can then utilize. I mean, 3 Immortals now built, and I actually kind of love that because I think that's going to be the bulkiness in the army that he needs once again, just in case these Colossi do get overwhelmed. As there's more Vikings, realistically, more ground force actually just becomes better and better again.
Yeah, it's also very important who stands where when they do finally end up clashing. I think both armies have potential to win the fight, but it really comes down to just who has the better spell casting, who's got the superior concave, perhaps an easier time reinforcing, and make sure that you don't walk yourself into a corner or you're back up against the wall. Kelazhur splits off a few of these units. 3 more Immortals, so we're going from 1 all the way up to 7 Immortals. And I do like it as well. There are 22 Marauders on the field. Astrea might want to actually wait for it, but no, they are just going to send it, Wardy.
Well, Storms do find their way into the center of this army again, but the Colossi going down. Kelazhur has a bit more army supply to work with than Astrea does, and it's that lasting army supply that seems to be the issue as Kelazhur is going to eat one more Storm. We drop some feedbacks now with the High Templar onto the Medivacs. Trying to remove healing is a big deal, and look at what it is. It's the Immortals that are standing strong at the end of this fight, Roddy. The Immortals are more or less going to save the day. They are going to be the one unit remaining. 39 versus 42 army supply. A little bit more now for Astrea with the warping, but that is huge because basically no mining left on the map. What a critical time to win the fight.
This game is bonkers, and this base is incredibly important here for Kelazhur. He knows it, so all the Vikings have landed, but Vikings don't do that well. More High Templars show up, cannot land any storms. Do we have a storm? We've got feedback, and feedbacks may be good enough for Astrea to win an absolutely epic 33-minute game on Oceanborn and finally advance into the top 4 of the ESL regionals after losing 52 High Templars, killing 119 SCVs, and 72 Widowmines. What